This is video number 4. We are doing a series of question and answers on economics for semester 1 first year BA LLB, Mumbai University. These are the questions which had come in the past question papers and we are taking it up here. Let's begin with the types of price elasticity of demand. Price elasticity of demand, also marked as or given as PED or stated as PED, refers to the degree of responsiveness, the keyword responsiveness, or sensitivity of the quantity demanded of a good to a change in its price. This is the key definition. It measures how much quantity demanded changes in response to a change in the price of the good. अगर प्राइस चेंज होता है तो उसके साथ साथ कितना क्वांटिटी चेंज होता है, डिमांड इन क्वांटिटी कितना चेंज होता है या क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड कितना चेंज होता है ऑफ अ गुड और अ सर्विस. सो इट मेजर्स द रिस्पॉन्सिवनेस, इसलिए मैंने कहा ये कीवर्ड है. इसका डेफिनेशन आ सकता है, पूछ सकते हैं व्हाट इज प्राइस इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड. देयर आर सेवरल टाइप्स ऑफ प्राइस इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड, ईच रिफ्लेक्टिंग डिफरेंट डिग्रीज ऑफ रिस्पॉन्सिवनेस टू प्राइस चेंजेस. प्राइस चेंज होता है तो कितना रिस्पॉन्ड करता है, बहुत ज्यादा करता है, बहुत कम करता है या कुछ भी नहीं करता है. तो इस तरह से परफेक्टली इलास्टिक है, परफेक्टली इनइलास्टिक है, यूनिटरी इलास्टिक है, इलास्टिक डिमांड है, इनइलास्टिक डिमांड है, रिलेटिव इलास्टिक डिमांड. हम लोग ये 6 करके जाएंगे, विल डू ऑल 6. सो प्राइस इलास्टिसिटी और इलास्टिसिटी डिमांड इलास्टिसिटी या इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड को डिफाइन करने के लिए बोलेंगे तो it is the degree of responsiveness or sensitivity of the quantity demanded of a good or service to a change in its price. There are several types of price elasticity of demand, each reflecting different degrees of responsiveness to price changes. The different types are based on the numerical value of the price elastic coefficient ED and can be classified as follows. Perfectly elastic demand क्या होता है? Perfectly elastic demand, in this case, quantity demanded responds infinitely to any change in price. थोड़ा भी प्राइस चेंज हो गया तो ये इन्फिनिटी में उसका क्वांटिटी डिमांड का रिस्पॉन्स आता है. इवन द स्लाइटेस्ट इंक्रीज इन प्राइस विल कॉज द क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड टू ड्रॉप टू जीरो स्ट्रेट अवे. अगर भाव बढ़ गया कोई भी प्रोडक्ट का, फॉर एग्जाम्पल मैं शूज मैन्युफैक्चर कर रहा हूँ एंड आई हैव इंक्रीज द प्राइस ऑफ द शूज बाय लिटिल बिट अमाउंट, then also my demand will fall straight away to zero, while any decrease in price will cause the quantity demanded to rise without limit. इसका अपोजिट भी, अगर मैंने प्राइस गिरा दिया थोड़े अमाउंट से तो उसका जो डिमांड है वो एकदम इंफिनिटी में चला जाएगा, बहुत हाई हो जाएगा. कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स, इसको बोलते हैं perfectly elastic demand, एकदम हाई या एकदम लो. कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स, देयर इज नो टॉलरेंस फॉर प्राइस चेंज, मींस प्राइस चेंज कर ही नहीं सकते, इसमें टॉलरेंस लेवल है ही नहीं. द डिमांड कर्व इज हॉरिजॉन्टल. हॉरिजॉन्टल मींस फ्लैट लाइक दिस, कि यहाँ पे प्राइस है, यहाँ पे डिमांड है, क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड. तो अगर प्राइस थोड़ा भी चेंज हुआ तो क्वांटिटी इधर एकदम स्ट्रेट अवे जीरो हो जाएगा या एकदम इंफिनिटी में चला जाएगा, मैक्सिमम हो जाएगा. दिस सिचुएशन रेयरली अकर्स इन द रियल वर्ल्ड, पर ये होता नहीं है, बट कैन बी यूज्ड एज एन आइडियलाइज्ड कॉन्सेप्ट. ये होता नहीं है, बट ऑफ कोर्स वी आल्सो नो कि मतलब थोड़ा भाव ऊपर नीचे गया तो एकदम अपोजिट एंड में, एक्सट्रीम एंड्स में नहीं जाता है. परफेक्टली कॉम्पिटिटिव मार्केट्स वेयर कंज्यूमर्स आर विलिंग टू बाय एट अ सर्टेन प्राइस बट नॉट अ सेंट मोर. तो एक भी पैसा ऊपर नहीं देने के तैयार है, तो इस तरह के मार्केट्स में परफेक्टली कॉम्पिटिटिव मार्केट्स इस तरह के होते हैं, या परफेक्टली इलास्टिक डिमांड इस तरफ का होता है. और परफेक्टली इलास्टिक कोएफिशिएंट को ईडी से हम लोग रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं. ये इसका सिंबल है इन्फिनिटी का. परफेक्टली इन इलास्टिक डिमांड, ईडी इज इक्वल टू जीरो. इसमें क्या होता है? इन दिस केस द क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड रिमेन्स अनचेंज्ड रिगार्डलेस ऑफ द चेंज इन प्राइस. प्राइस कितना भी बढ़ाओ कम करो उससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है, क्वांटिटी जितना डिमांडेड है उतना ही रहेगा. नो मैटर हाउ मच द प्राइस इंक्रीजेस or decreases, the demand for the good does not change. goods and services does not change. इसके कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स क्या है? The demand curve is vertical. यहाँ पे ये वर्टिकल कर्व है, ये ग्राफ है हमारा. यहाँ पे प्राइस है, यहाँ पे क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड है. The demand curve is vertical. The goods is a necessity with no the good is a necessity with no close substitutes. So consumer will buy the same amount even if the price increases. Even if the price increases, अगर प्राइस बढ़ता भी है तो भी क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड में कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता, ना नीचे गिरता है ना बढ़ता है. तो ये नेसेसिटी गुड्स में ये यहाँ पे एप्लीकेबल होता है. फॉर एग्जांपल लाइफ सेविंग ड्रग्स जो यूज करना ही करना है, उसका भाव बढ़ेगा या कम होगा फिर भी डिमांड उतना ही रहेगा, जिसकी क्योंकि कंज्यूमर के पास कोई ऑल्टरनेटिव ही नहीं है. फॉर एग्जांपल इंसुलिन फॉर डायबिटिक पेशेंट, उनको लेना ही है. तो ये क्या हो गया? ये परफेक्टली इन इलास्टिक डिमांड है. इलास्टिसिटी नहीं है, मूवमेंट नहीं है इसमें, और इलास्टिक में एकदम एक्सट्रीम मूवमेंट है. यूनिटरी इलास्टिक डिमांड ईडी इज इक्वल टू 1. तो पहले हमने ईडी इज इक्वल टू इन्फिनिटी देखा, ईडी इज इक्वल टू 0 देखा, अभी ईडी इज इक्वल टू 1. इसमें क्या होता है? व्हेन द परसेंटेज चेंज in quantity demand is exactly equal to the percentage change in price, the demand is said to be unitary elastic. This means that the total revenue remains the same when the price changes. इसमें क्या होता है कि जो टोटल रेवेन्यू है वो it remains the same even though the price changes. Characteristics: the demand curve is neither steep nor flat. A change in price leads to a proportional change in quantity demanded. For example, एक example से समझते हैं. If the price of a goods increases by 10%, the quantity demanded decreases by 10%, keeping total revenue unchanged. भाव 10% से बढ़ा तो उतना ही क्वांटिटी 10% से कम होगा exactly. तो उसमें रेवेन्यू जो जनरेट होता है वो उतना ही रहेगा अल्टीमेटली. Elastic demand ED is greater than 1. इसमें क्या होता है? When the absolute value of the price elasticity of demand is greater than 1, the demand is elastic. This means that the quantity demanded is relatively responsive to price changes. A small change in price leads to a larger percentage change in quantity demanded. इसके कैरेक्टर्स एग्जांपल से ज़्यादा समझ में आएगा. The demand curve is relatively flat, more horizontal. Consumers are highly responsive to price changes. So when the price decreases, the quantity demanded increases significantly. जैसे इसके पहले जो यूनिटरी इलास्टिक था, इसमें इलास्टिक डिमांड जो था उसमें क्या था कि 10%, माय बैड, सॉरी, यूनिटरी इलास्टिक ओनली. इसमें 10% जो प्राइस इंक्रीज हुआ था तो देन क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड डिक्रीज बाय 10%. ओके, प्राइस इंक्रीज बाय 10%, तो क्वांटिटी डिक्रीज बाय 10%. बट इसमें इन इलास्टिक डिमांड व्हाट हैपेंस इज प्राइस इंक्रीज बाय से 1%, बट द डिमांड में इंक्रीज और डिक्रीज बाय अ हायर परसेंटेज, विच मीन्स इट इज इलास्टिक. Consumers are highly responsive to price changes, so when the price decreases, quantity demanded increases significantly. या फिर quantity demanded decreases significantly. अगर if the price goes up, for example, by 1%, then the quantity demanded may go down by 10%, for example. या उसका उल्टा, vice versa. Alright, luxury goods or non-essential items such as designer clothing, where consumers are more sensitive to price fluctuations. तो यहाँ पर ये देखने को मिलता है इलास्टिक डिमांड. इनइलास्टिक डिमांड में क्या होता है? ईडी इज लेस देन 1. When the absolute value of the price elasticity of demand is less than 1, the demand is inelastic. This means that the quantity demanded is relatively unresponsive to change in price. This means that the quantity demanded is relatively unresponsive to changes in price. A change in price leads to a smaller percentage change in quantity demanded. For example, if the price goes up by 5%, the quantity demanded may go down by even lesser, let's say 2%. So it is inelastic, it doesn't move that much. The demand curve is relatively steep, more vertical. Consumers are less sensitive to price changes, meaning that even a significant price increase may not lead to a large decrease in quantity demanded. मतलब 5% बढ़ गया फिर भी क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं गिरा है, सिर्फ 2% गिरा है या 1% गिरा है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, सॉल्ट है, ब्रेड इज देयर, बेसिक मेडिकेशन, वेयर प्राइस चेंजेस हैव लिटिल इफेक्ट ऑन द क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड. तो यहाँ पे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, सॉल्ट का भाव बढ़ेगा, ब्रेड का भाव बढ़ेगा, तो भी इतना डिमांड नहीं गिरेगा जितना अपना इलास्टिक डिमांड में होता है. इसी का ना, इसलिए देयर इज अ नेम इन इलास्टिक, नॉट इलास्टिक. ओके, रिलेटिवली इलास्टिक डिमांड, ईडी इज ग्रेटर देन 1 बट लेस देन इंफिनिटी. This refers to cases where demand is elastic but not perfectly elastic. In these cases, the quantity demanded is still responsive to price changes, but not infinitely so. A relative small percentage change in price causes a relatively large percentage change in quantity demanded. मतलब 1% अगर भाव ऊपर गया फॉर एग्जाम्पल, तो ये इन्फिनिटी में नहीं जाएगा, डिमांड मतलब डिमांड जीरो नहीं हो जाएगा, बट काफी हद तक गिरेगा, मे बी 50% गिर सकता है, बट सब्सटेंशियली गिरेगा. ये परफेक्टली इलास्टिक नहीं है, इलास्टिक है बट परफेक्टली इलास्टिक नहीं है. A relatively small percentage change in price causes a relatively larger percentage change in quantity demanded. Larger percentage change in quantity demanded. The demand curve is sloping but relatively flat. इसके सारे हम लोग ग्राफ में देखते हैं afterwards. Consumers are fairly sensitive to price changes, but they still make purchases even with moderate price increases. Items like smartphones or fast food, where a decrease in price might lead to a proportionally large increase in quantity demanded. स्मार्टफोन्स का भाव नीचे गिर गया या खाने के पदार्थों का भाव नीचे गिरा तो भी एक हाई इंक्रीज इन क्वांटिटी डिमांड आएगा क्वांटिटी में. ओके, एक समराइज करके जाते हैं. Perfectly elastic demand, ED infinity, quantity demanded changes infinitely with any price change. थोड़ा भी price change हुआ तो quantity demanded changes infinitely. ये normally we don't get to see this concept in markets, but it appears in perfect competition where there is perfect competition. ये perfectly elastic हो गया. फिर perfectly inelastic देखते हैं. We start with perfectly elastic, perfectly inelastic. तो यहाँ पे क्या होता है कि the quantity demanded does not change regardless of the price. और ऊपर वाले में था कि क्वांटिटी एकदम इन्फिनिटी में चला जाता है या जीरो चला जाता है थोड़ा भी प्राइस चेंज हुआ तो. जबकि यहाँ पे क्या होता है कि कितना भी प्राइस मूव हो, क्वांटिटी वही रहेगा और डिमांड उतना ही रहेगा उसका. वो लाइफ सेविंग ड्रग्स में हमको देखने को मिलता है इन इंसुलिन्स फॉर डायबिटीज पेशेंट्स. फिर यूनिटरी इलास्टिसिटी, यूनिटरी इलास्टिक. यूनिटरी इलास्टिक में क्या होता है, ईडी इज इक्वल टू 1, जीरो के बाद 1, फिर ग्रेटर देन 1, लेस देन 1. तो यूनिटरी इलास्टिक, परसेंटेज चेंज इन प्राइस इक्वल्स परसेंटेज चेंज इन डिमांड. अगर 1% भाव बढ़ा है तो 1% डिमांड नीचे गिरेगा. ये यूनिटरी है, साथ में चलते हैं. तो टोटल रेवेन्यू डज नॉट चेंज. इसकी वजह से क्या होता है, जो रेवेन्यू जनरेट हो रहा है दैट रिमेन्स परफेक्टली द सेम, इट डजंट चेंज, द रेवेन्यू जनरेशन डजंट चेंज. परसेंटेज चेंज इन प्राइस इक्वल्स परसेंटेज चेंज इन डिमांड. तो टोटल रेवेन्यू रिमेन्स अनचेंज्ड. फिर आते हैं इलास्टिक डिमांड एंड इनइलास्टिक डिमांड. पहले में परफेक्टली बोलने का, परफेक्टली इलास्टिक, perfectly inelastic, and then elastic and inelastic demand. Elastic demand, what happens is the demand is greater than 1, the change is greater than 1. That is, the quantity demanded is highly responsive मतलब बहुत ज़्यादा रिस्पॉन्ड करता है डिमांड क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड टू प्राइस चेंज. लग्जरी गुड्स, डिजाइनर आइटम्स, अगर 1% भी चेंज हुआ, 1% भी चेंज हुआ, तो द price changes, then quantity demanded is highly responsive. शायद 50% ड्रॉप हो जाए डिमांड. ओके, इन इलास्टिक डिमांड लग्जरी गुड्स, डिजाइनर आइटम्स में देखने को मिलता है. इन इलास्टिक डिमांड ईडी इज लेस देन 1, दैट इज क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड इज लेस रिस्पॉन्सिव टू प्राइस चेंज. जैसे कि ब्रेड, सॉल्ट वगैरह, उसमें एक यहाँ पे क्या होता है, एक्सट्रीम मूवमेंट होता है, जबकि यहाँ पे 1% चेंज इन इलास्टिक की बात कर रहा हूँ, 1% change will lead to say 2% drop, but not like 50% drop, like in luxury items. और फिर finally relatively elastic demand, ED is greater than 1 but less than infinity. Demand is responsive but not infinitely. Smartphones, fast foods, तो यहाँ पे एकदम extreme नहीं होता है. Alright. Now let's look at the factors affecting price elasticity of demand. This can come as a separate question also. What are the factors affecting price elasticity of demand? इसके पहले जो हमने पढ़ा, we learnt about types of price elasticity of demand. Okay, availability of substitutes. अगर substitutes available है, the more substitutes available, the more elastic the demand. अगर ज़्यादा, for example, there are 20 shoe manufacturers, 20 shoe companies, तो even if little bit price increase I do in my company, my shoes company, so my demand may go down substantially down. So that is what affects. If there are substitutes available, then consumers will go to buy that substitute shoes. Necessity versus luxury. Necessities tend to have inelastic demand. जब जरूरत है ही तो लोग खरीदेंगे, उसमें इलास्टिक नहीं होगा डिमांड. It will be inelastic, like salt and all of that thing, जो डेली नेसेसिटीज के, मिल्क वगैरह. सो देयर इट इज इनइलास्टिक. जबकि लग्जरी गुड्स आर मोर इलास्टिक्स. लोग नहीं बाय करेंगे. अगर लग्जरी आइटम्स का भाव बढ़ गया तो दे मे पोस्टपोन इट ऑल्सो. सो इट इज वेरी इलास्टिक. इट विल चेंज, द डिमांड में फॉल सडनली. टाइम पीरियड. डिमांड इज जनरली मोर इलास्टिक इन लॉन्ग रन देन इन शॉर्ट रन. शॉर्ट रन में वो प्राइस, क्वांटिटी डिमांड में इमीडिएटली दिखता नहीं है, जबकि लॉन्ग रन में वो दिखता है. Proportion of income spent. Goods that take up larger proportion of the consumer's income tend to have more elastic demand. अगर कोई कंज्यूमर्स के जो इनकम है, अगर वो एक पर्टिकुलर चीज में देते हैं, वो उसमें डिवोट करते हैं या उसमें डालते हैं, तो वो उसका डिमांड बढ़ेगा और उसमें इलास्टिसिटी भी ज्यादा आएगा. Addictiveness or habit. Goods that are addictive or habit forming like cigarettes tend to have more inelastic. वो चेंज नहीं होता है डिमांड उसका, वो डिमांड वही रहता है, उसमें इलास्टिसिटी नहीं आती है. इन समरी, प्राइस इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड मेजर्स द सेंसिटिविटी ऑफ कंज्यूमर्स टू प्राइस चेंजेस and is an essential concept for understanding how prices affect demand and market outcomes. Different types of elasticity reflect different levels of responsiveness and depend on the nature of good or services. Alright, so we'll just go through recap. ED infinity, ED 0, ED 1, ED greater than 1, ED less than 1, and ED greater than 1 but less than infinity. Okay, next let's look at the constraints in agriculture. What are the problems in agriculture? Agriculture is a crucial sector for many economies, providing food, raw material, and employment. However, it faces several constraints that limit its growth and productivity. These constraints can be economic, technological, social, environmental, or institutional in nature. Let us look at the few constraints. Limited land availability. Land scarcity is one of the fundamental constraints in agriculture. As the global population grows, agricultural land becomes increasingly scarce due to urbanization, industrialization, and infrastructure development. Soil degradation, that is, overuse of land without proper soil management, can lead to soil erosion depletion of nutrients, and desertification, reducing the productivity of the agricultural land. Land fragmentation. In many developing countries, agricultural land is fragmented into small, inefficient plots, making it difficult for farmers to adapt modern technologies and optimize production. So, three things are there in limited land availability. First, there is a scarcity of land because the availability of land is also only reducing because of rapid urbanization, increasing urbanization, industrialization, and infrastructure development. So the land available for agriculture is becoming scarce, is becoming less. Next is water scarcity and irrigation issues. Water availability is a critical constraint for agriculture. Many agricultural regions depend on rain-fed water systems, which are vulnerable to droughts and unpredictable weather patterns. In regions where irrigation is necessary, inefficient or inadequate irrigation infrastructure often limits productivity. Moreover, water pollution, groundwater depletion, and climate change exacerbate water related challenges in agriculture. Inadequate infrastructure. Poor transport networks can result in high post harvest losses due to delays in getting produce to markets. This can also lead to higher cost and reduced competitiveness. Storage facilities are often inadequate, leading to spoilage or wastage, especially for perishable crops. Lack of access to energy, that is, electricity, fuel, for mechanization and processing also limits the efficiency of agricultural practices. Fourth is financial constraints. Limited access to credit and financing options for small scale farmers is a major constraint. Many farmers cannot afford to invest in quality seeds, fertilizers, machinery, or irrigation systems due to lack of capital. High interest rates on loans or lack of suitable loan schemes further discourage investments in agricultural development. Financial institutions are often hesitant to lend to farmers due to the perceived risks such as poor returns or damage from natural disasters. Technological constraints. Outdated farming practices are still prevalent in many regions, especially in developing countries. Farmers often rely on traditional methods, which are less efficient and less productive compared to modern techniques. Limited access to technology. While technology can significantly boost agricultural productivity, many farmers, especially in rural areas, lack access to modern tools, machinery, and high yielding varieties of crops. Inadequate agricultural extension services to educate farmers on the latest techniques, innovations, and practices often restricts their ability to improve productivity. Sixth is high input cost. The cost of inputs such as seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, and water can be prohibitively high, especially for small farmers. In many cases, these costs can eat into the farmers' profits. In some countries, the subsidies provided for inputs are insufficient or poorly targeted or poorly implemented, resulting in high production costs. Climate change and weather variability. Climate change is altering rainfall patterns, increasing the frequency of droughts and floods, and raising temperatures, all of which negatively affect agricultural productivity. Pests and diseases. Changing climates can also lead to the spread of new pests and diseases, making it difficult for farmers to manage crops effectively. Unpredictable weather patterns lead to planning challenges, making it difficult for farmers to anticipate planting and harvest periods. labor shortages and rural-urban migration. Many agricultural workers are aging and younger generations are increasingly migrating to urban areas in search of better employment opportunities, leading to labor shortages in rural areas. Even where labor is available, there may be a lack of skilled workers who can implement modern farming techniques and technologies. Market access and price fluctuations. Market inefficiencies. Farmers may face challenges in accessing markets where they can sell their produce at a fair price. Poor infrastructure, high transportation costs, and middlemen can lead to lower profits for farmers. Price volatility. Agricultural prices can fluctuate significantly due to changing weather conditions, global demand, and supply chain disruptions. Farmers may struggle to cope with these fluctuations, which can lead to income instability. 10th, land ownership and property rights. In many regions, land ownership and property rights are not well defined or protected. Farmers may face uncertainty regarding the use of the land, which discourages long term investments in agricultural development. In some countries, land distribution is unequal, with large portions of land being controlled by a few wealthy individuals or corporations, while small farmers remain landless or own very little. Pests and diseases. Pest, diseases, and plant pathogens pose a significant challenge to agriculture. Outbreak can decimate crops, leading to reduced yields and economic losses for farmers. Limited access to efficient or effective pest management. Small scale farmers often lack the resources to properly manage pests and diseases through integrated pest management or other modern techniques. We have total 14 of them to cover. Government policies and regulations. Ineffective agricultural policies. Inadequate or poorly designed government policies can worsen the constraints faced by farmers. This includes weak implementation of subsidy programs, lack of price support, or inefficient export import policies. Complex and restrictive regulations can hinder farmers' ability to innovate, access markets, or adopt modern farming technologies. This is also very important. Point number 12. Environmental degradation. This is also important. Deforestation, soil erosion, and desertification are some forms of environmental degradation that harm agricultural productivity. Unsustainable farming practices such as overgrazing or excessive pesticide use further exacerbate these problems. The loss of natural biodiversity due to monoculture farming or habitat destruction can make agriculture more vulnerable to pests and diseases. Consumer preferences and changing demands. Changing consumer preferences can also pose a challenge to agriculture. For example, a shift towards organic foods or healthier eating habits may require farmers to adapt their farming practices or produce different types of crops. Fluctuations in consumer preferences or demand for certain products can result in overproduction or underproduction of certain agricultural goods. So to conclude, agriculture faces a range of constraints that hinder its potential for growth, efficiency, and sustainability. To overcome these constraints, governments, organizations, farmers need to focus on improving infrastructure, investing in technology, ensuring sustainable practices, and ensuring market access. Addressing these challenges is crucial for ensuring food security, enhancing farmers' livelihoods, and promoting long term agricultural development. Hello. In this video, we are going to solve a table on the cost. This kind of question comes every year that I have observed, where you have to fill in a table like this, where they will give you either marginal cost or average variable cost, and you have to fill in all these details. It's a very easy table. Let's start the question first. Okay, so they have given you total fixed cost. TFC means total fixed cost of 250 rupees. You have to calculate total variable cost, total cost, average fixed cost, average variable cost, average cost, and marginal cost. Let us look at all the abbreviations. This is the TVC means total variable cost. TC means total cost, average fixed cost, average cost, and marginal cost. Alright, we'll also look at how we calculate this, and it's a very simple way of calculation. Okay, so what have they given us? They have given us a table with average variable cost of, for the first unit, 120 rupees. So basically I'll just explain this, that the total cost is made up of, if you see here, is made up of total fixed cost and total variable cost. That is both you have to consider in the total cost. So for example, my fixed cost is 5 rupees to make an unit, one unit. My fixed cost is 5 rupees and my variable cost is say 2 rupees. So my total cost is 7 rupees for one first unit. Okay, and so on. So we'll go through that as we proceed. Okay, so they have given us total fixed cost of 250 rupees and we have to calculate, and this 250 rupees is for the and we have to calculate the TVC, TC, AFC, AVC, AC and MC. Create a table with the unit of output 0 to 5. Also consider the value of average variable cost of the first unit as 120, second unit as 75, third unit as 70, fourth unit as 62.5 and fifth unit as 70. So what they have given us is average variable cost. So the average variable cost table has already been given to us, and they have also given us TFC of 250 rupees. Okay, I've recreated a revised sheet here. This is how they will give us this kind of sheet, and they will tell us to fill in all the other details. And they will give us average variable cost for the one unit, for the first unit 120, second unit 75, third unit 70, fourth unit 62.5 and fifth unit is 70, and other will be all blank. And total fixed cost will be given for the 0 unit, that is 250 rupees, and we have to fill other details. So the most simplest way to start this is the total fixed cost will remain same for all of them. The total fixed cost remains the same for all units. So you just fill in all 250 here. You can also write on the same in your paper, in your rough note here with me. Okay. Alright, now they will not give this formula. All these formula I have written it here just for ease of understanding. Okay, this is already given, and there is nothing to remember in the formula also. We know that the total cost will be made up of total fixed cost, whatever is the fixed cost for us, plus the total variable cost, changing cost, additional cost. Okay, so this is the third column for the TC, which is total fixed cost versus total variable cost. Now to find this column, to fill in this column, we need the data in this column. Let us number it. So 1 column, 2 column, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So to fill in the fourth column, we need 2 plus 3. 4 is made up of 2 plus 3. Okay. Now to fill the third one, we need to multiply the quantity. Quantity is the first, whatever the units are, is in the first column. So this third number is made up of average variable cost, which is already given. Okay. So this is average variable cost is 6 into 1. Sixth column multiplied by the first column. Okay. So here the total variable cost for the 0 unit, because you're not for total variable cost only comes when new units are added, additional units are added. So for 0 units, the total variable cost will be, since there is nothing given here, so it is considered as 0, and 0 into 0 is 0. So the total variable cost is 0. So therefore the total cost for the 0 first unit will be 250 rupees only. Alright. So now let's fill in all the other ones also. They are given us average variable cost of 120 into 1. So the total variable cost will be sixth column into one column, first column. So 120 into 1 is 120 into 1 is 120. Then 75 into 2 is 150. 70 into 3 is 210. For the fourth unit, it will be 62.5 into 250. 62.5 into 250. Sorry, not 250. 62.5 into 3. Because, sorry, 4. 62.5 into 4, because we are multiplying sixth column multiplied by the first column. So 62.5 multiplied by fourth unit, which is equal to 250 rupees. And the third one is 70 into 5, which is 350 units. 350 rupees. 7 5s are 35, so 350. So this is what we have filled in for the third column also. Now total cost is very easy, as I said. Just add up these two. So that will become our total cost. So this is 0, 5 and 2, 7, 2 and 1, 3. 370 rupees is the total cost. Total cost for the first unit. For the second unit, it will be 400 rupees. We have to write rupees also here. For the third unit, it will be 0, 6 and 4, 460 rupees. For the fifth one, 250 plus 250 is 500 rupees. For the fifth, it will be 3, 4, 5 and 600 rupees. So our fourth column is also filled in. Now let's move to the average fixed cost. Like we had total fixed cost, now we have average fixed cost. Now average fixed cost is total fixed cost divided by quantity. It's very simple. So like for example, average fixed cost will be whatever is the total fixed cost, that has to be divided by the quantity. So the first average fixed cost will be 0, and fifth is made up of the total fixed cost, that is second number column, divided by the first number column. Okay, 250 divided by 1 is 250. 400 divided by 2, total fixed cost. Sorry, we have 250 here, not 400. So yeah, so we have divided by the second column by the first column. So 250 divided by 1 is 250. 250 divided by 2 is 125. Then 250 divided by 3 is 83.33. That we'll have to divide manually. 250 divided by 3. Then 250 divided by 4. 250 divided by 4 is 62.50. And 250 divided by 5 is 50 rupees. Okay. So this our fifth column is also filled in. Sixth column they have already given us. Seventh column is the average cost. Average cost is total cost divided by the quantity. That is the fourth column divided by the first column. Average fixed cost, average variable cost. Okay. And this is average cost. So it is column number 4 divided by column number 1. That is quantity. Okay, so total cost is 250 rupees divided by 0 is 0. For the first unit, it will be column number 4 divided by 1. So 370 divided by 1 is 370. For row number second, that is second unit, it will be 400 divided by 2, which is 200 rupees. Then 460 divided by 3, which is works to 153.33. So we have to be very careful in calculation when decimal points come, and we have to write in 2 decimal points. The next is 500 divided by 4, which works out to 125 rupees for fourth additional unit. And then finally 600 divided by 5, which works out 120 rupees. Okay, 600 divided by 5. 5 12s are 60 plus 1 0, so 120. Now, what is the marginal cost? That is the change in total cost divided by change in quantity. Okay, how do we calculate this? Change in total cost divided by change in quantity. So we divide the total cost divided by total quantity. So the total cost is the fourth column divided by total quantity. But now if you see, this both are same. What here we are talking about is change and not just the total quantity. It is change. Okay, so how we determine the change? Let us see the actual. All right, calculation for the steps. Okay, change. So when the total cost was 0 minus 250, this is the change. Okay, first when the output is 0, the marginal cost is not calculable because the output is 0. before there is no previous column to that, or we don't have the previous figure to that. Okay, so MC will be 370 minus 250, that is 370, fourth column 370 minus the previous one. So what is the difference? The difference is of 120. No, difference is not of 120. 370, correct. 120 is the change in your total cost divided by change in quantity. There is no change in quantity, it is 1 only. The 1 minus 0 is 1. So the total value is 120. Okay, this has to be written first, and then the how it is calculated has to be written behind. Second is, we'll write it like this now. We'll write the final figure here at the start. How it is calculated is, now we have to reduce 125 from 250. Or how is it? From, sorry, here, the fourth column. From 400, you have to remove 370. So the difference is of 30 rupees. Correct. Difference is of 30 rupees. Marginal cost is equal to total cost at number 2 minus total cost at 1 also. Okay. So then it will become 30 rupees only. Alright. So the difference between these two, this and this, is 30 rupees divided by change in quantity. Change in quantity is again of 1 rupees divided by 1. So the answer is 30. Next is change in 460 minus 400. Change is how much? $460 minus 400 is 60 divided by 1. Again, because there is a gap of only 1 unit. 3 minus 2. So the total marginal cost is 60 rupees. Next is 500 minus 460 is 40 rupees. Again divided by 1. And 600 minus 500 is 100 divided by 1. So 100. So our entire table is completed. So let's go through the how it is to be solved. So we know that the total fixed cost was 250 rupees. So all columns will be filled with 250 rupees for 0 to 5 units. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. It will be all 250. This doesn't change fixed cost. Variable cost, average variable cost. This has already been given to us. Now we had how many columns? So we write total fixed cost, total variable cost. Okay. So how do you start? First we say total cost. Total cost is made up of total fixed cost plus total variable cost. So we got our 3 columns. Okay. So we got our first column, we got our second column, we got our third column. Now we also have average cost. Average cost is made up of total average cost average fixed cost and average variable cost. Average cost is average fixed cost and average variable cost. This is the order in which I'll write. So I'll start with total cost. Total cost, what is it made up of? This average cost, then average fixed cost, average variable cost. Right, so 6 columns are done, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we have a quantity also. So 7 columns are done. Now the 8th column is marginal cost. So we have total 8 columns. Now we just write the formula. Total cost is total fixed cost plus total variable cost. Okay, TFC plus total variable cost. Now what is total fixed cost? They'll give us one total fixed cost, and that will be the same for the total fixed cost. If they have given us for one, then it will be for all of them, same thing. Total variable cost, how do we calculate that? Total variable cost, it is the average variable cost multiplied by the quantity. Now average variable cost they have given us, so we can find the total variable cost very easily, and so on, all of these columns. For all formulas they have given us how it is to be calculated. We can go through that. Pause the video. You can go through that. So this is our final table, how it is calculated. The total variable cost increases with the output as more variable inputs are used. You can see the variable cost will increase. The total cost is the sum of total fixed cost and total variable cost, which increases with the output. Average fixed cost decreases as output increases because fixed costs are spread over a larger number of units. Average variable cost shows the average variable cost per unit, which first decreases due to economies of scale and then increases. Average cost shows the total cost per unit and generally decreases initially as output increases, but then increases when diseconomies of scale set in. And marginal cost represents the change in total cost as output increases by 1 unit and is useful for understanding how cost changes as production expands. Now let's move on to our third question. State and explain the law of demand. This also is an important question which comes very often in any type of format, either short format 2 marks or 4 marks, 6 marks or 13 marks also. And what are its exceptions? Law of demand. We'll go through the previous table once again. Let me check how much marks it comes for on an average. Okay, on an average, this table comes for 6 marks. So this is easily scoreable, provided we don't do mistakes in the division part of the column. Otherwise, our total will become wrong. Okay, law of demand. The law of demand states that all else being equal, this is a keyword in the bold letters, all else being equal, the quantity demanded of a goods or services increases as its price falls and decreases as its price rises. This is a definition that we need to, it's a very simple definition and it is easily rememberable. It states that all else being, this is what we have to write, all else being equal or all else being constant, the quantity, all of the factors being constant, the quantity demanded of a goods or services increases as the price falls. So as the price falls, the demand for goods and services goods and services increases. Quantity demanded of the goods and services increases. This is the law of demand, provided everything else being constant. That is known as ceteris paribus. The law of demand is one of the fundamental principles in economics. This inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded forms the foundation for the demand curve, which we will see later on, the demand curve also, which typically slopes downwards from left to right. If you remember in the previous video, we had gone for supply, what is supply? And in supply, the curve was like this, going upwards. But in law of demand or in demand, the curve goes downwards like this. We'll look at the graph also. Okay, I have the demand curve, downward sloping demand curve here. What shows is, we have to draw the graph also in the question paper. So we plot price number 1, price 2, price 3. As the price increases, the quantity demanded. So at P1, the quantity demanded was Q1. But as the price dropped to P2, the quantity demanded increased to Q2. And then finally, as the price dropped more to price point number 3, the quantity demand went up to quantity 3. So as the price drops, the quantity demanded increases, but as the price goes up, the quantity demanded decreases. So on the y-axis, vertical, we plot the price, and on the x-axis, we plot quantity demanded, and we write demand curve on the line like this. This should occupy at least half of your page if it's for a long answer question. Alright, so QD means quantity demanded and P is the price. Alright, next let's move on. The law assumes that other factors influencing demand, such as income, preferences, or the prices of related goods, remain constant, known as ceteris paribus. This is a very important line to write. Assuming other factors influencing demand remains constant. Okay, let us go through the explanation of law of demand. So it's an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. It's an inverse relationship. The law explains that when the price of a good falls, consumers are generally willing to purchase more of it because it becomes relatively cheaper compared to other goods. Conversely, if the price rises, then the quantity demanded falls. The good becomes less attractive to consumers, leading to a decrease in the quantity demanded. Substitution effect. When the price of goods decreases, it becomes more attractive to consumers relative to substitute goods, causing an increase in its demand. So when the substitute goods price decreases, then it becomes more attractive compared to the goods whose price has not decreased. Income effect. When the price of a good falls, the real purchasing power of a consumer's income increases, leading them to purchase more of the goods. Demand curve. The demand curve graphically represents the law of demand. Typically, the demand curve is downward sloping like this, showing the negative relationship between price and quantity demanded. This means that as the price of the good decreases, the quantity demanded increases and vice versa. Now, what are the exceptions? This can come as a separate question also. Law of demand can come as a separate question. Exceptions can also come as a separate question, or they can be combined together, like in this question. While the law of demand holds true in most cases, there are some exceptions where the relationship between price and demand does not follow the usual inverse pattern. Some of the key exceptions are Giffen goods, Veblen goods. Giffen goods are basically inferior goods. This is what you have to remember, for which an increase in the price leads to an increase in quantity demanded, contrary to the law of demand. As the price increases, the quantity demanded also increases because it's an inferior good. It is required. Explanation. This occurs because the income effect outweighs the substitution effect. As price of given goods rises, consumers cannot afford to buy more expensive substitutes and therefore end up purchasing more of given goods even though its price has increased. For example, during a famine, the price of staple foods like bread or rice may rise. Despite the price increase, the poor population may buy more of this staple food because they cannot afford alternative, more expensive sources of nutrition. Veblen goods. Veblen goods are luxury items for which demand increases as the price increases due to the prestige and status associated with higher prices. In the case of Veblen goods, higher prices are seen as an indicator of higher quality or exclusivity, which makes the goods more desirable. Hence, people might demand more of these goods at higher prices. For example, luxury goods like designer handbags, expensive watches, or high-end sports cars. As their price rises, their demand can increase because of the perceived prestige. Okay, these are speculative bubbles. We don't need to cover them, but we'll just read through that. And if we need to, we'll add it in the exam paper. In certain cases, demand for goods may increase as price rises, especially in speculative markets where people expect future price increases. This is applicable in the stock market. In such cases, buyers might believe that if they buy the goods at a higher price, it will be worth more in the future. Therefore, expectation of future price increases drives current demand. Even if the price is already high. Example, real estate markets or stock markets can sometimes show this behavior where people buy more property or stocks as price rise, believing they will sell them for a profit later. Necessities, essential goods. For some essential goods, the quantity demanded may not decrease as expected when price rises. These are goods that are considered essential for survival, and consumers may be willing to pay higher prices regardless of the cost because they have no choice but to purchase them. The demand for these goods can be relatively price inelastic. That is, even if the price changes, the demand does not change. For example, pharmaceuticals like life-saving medicines or emergency medical treatments, even if the price increases, people may still need to buy them. Even groceries like milk, vegetables and everything, even if the price rises, people will still demand that because those are necessities. Habit forming or addictive goods. For addictive goods such as cigarette and alcohol, demand may remain stable or even increase as the price rises. Addictive products can create a situation where consumers continue to buy them despite price increases because they have become dependent on the product. Cigarettes, despite price hikes due to taxes or other factors, addicted consumers may not reduce their consumption significantly. Okay, labor market. In labor market, some workers may work fewer hours if wages increase beyond a certain point, as they choose to work less and enjoy leisure. This is backward bending supply curve. At low wage rate, an increase in wages leads to more hours worked. However, beyond a certain level of wages, workers may value their leisure time more than the additional income from working longer hours, leading to a decrease in the number of hours worked despite higher wages. For example, high wage earners may choose to take more leisure time or reduce their hours worked if they feel they are earning enough income. Okay, let's summarize the law of demand and its exceptions. Price increases in normal cases, then the effect on the quantity demand is that it decreases. Given goods. These are given goods are inferior quality goods. The increase in quantity demanded will still be there on a higher side even though the price is going up. For example, staple foods during economic hardships, rice, bread, and so on. Veblen goods are luxury goods. When the price of Veblen goods increase, the quantity demanded also increases because of perceived value. Luxury goods, designer items, cars, luxury cars, watches, and so on. Speculative bubbles like stock market, property, where even though the price is increasing, the demand will still increase because of perceived notion that the future price will be higher. Real estate and stock markets. Necessities. Even if the price increases, the demand for necessary goods or necessity goods will not decrease significantly. It will still be on the rise because those will be required, like medicines and essential goods. Addictive goods, the demand will always be high because the consumers are addicted to cigarette and alcohol. Backward bending labor supply. Now, it may reduce labor supply at higher wages, but generally, as the price goes up for the labor, the quantity demanded for the labor also goes up. But after a certain time, it starts bending backwards. That is, the laborers may not enjoy that higher income. They may value more their leisure time. Let's conclude the law of demand generally holds true in most cases, reflecting the inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. However, exceptions such as Giffen goods, Veblen goods, addictive goods show that under certain conditions, the demand curve can behave differently. Understanding these exceptions is crucial for a deeper analysis of consumer behavior and market dynamics. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Explain the features of Indian economy. This is also an important question. The Indian economy is one of the largest and most diverse economies in the world. This is true. Characterized by a unique blend of tradition and modern sectors. Let's look at the key features of the Indian economy. Agriculture as a major contributor. Agriculture has traditionally been the backbone of the Indian economy, providing employment to about 40 to 50% of the population. India is a major producer of a variety of crops, including rice, wheat, cotton, sugarcane, and spices. Despite its large contribution, agriculture faces issues like land degradation, water scarcity, and low productivity, as well as reduced land holding, soil degradation also. It remains largely dependent on monsoons, which are unpredictable due to climate change. The government has implemented various reforms, including subsidies, price support, and irrigation projects to enhance agricultural productivity. Indian economy is also a diversified economy. It's a multi-sector economy. India's economy is characterized by a mix of primary, secondary, and tertiary sectors. While agriculture dominates employment, services, especially in IT, information technology, have grown significantly in recent decades. Service sector contributes the largest share to GDP, around 55 to 60%, driven by IT services, software exports, finance, telecommunication, and healthcare. These are all service sector industries and they contribute around 55 to 60%, while agricultural sector employs around 40 to 50% of the population. It's a mixed economy made up of public and private sectors. India follows a mixed economy, which means both the public sector, which is state owned enterprises, and private sector play important roles in the economy. The government has a significant presence in sectors like defense, energy, and transportation, while private sector drives innovation, entrepreneurship, and trade. Since the 1991 economic reforms, India has progressively moved towards a more market oriented economy with liberalization policies to promote competition, foreign investments, and economic growth. India has a large workforce. Population and labor force in India is the second most populous country, that is, India is the second most populous country in the world with a population of over 1.4 billion people. It has a young population which provides a potential demographic dividend. Despite the large labor force, unemployment rates are an ongoing issue, especially among the youth and in rural areas. Underemployment and informal employment are also significant concerns. Rapid economic growth. India's economy has experienced rapid growth in recent decades, with a notable acceleration in GDP growth since the 1991 economic reform. While India still faces challenges such as poverty, income inequality, and regional disparities, its economy has become one of the fastest growing in the world, driven by expansion of services, manufacturing, and exports. Indian economy is highly dependent on foreign trade. India has a growing trade relationship with countries around the world. It is a major exporter of IT services, pharmaceuticals, textiles, and agricultural products. India also imports crude oil, gold, and machinery. The government has taken steps to increase India's integration with the global economy by signing various trade agreements and fostering foreign direct investments (FDI). Indian economy can One of the features of Indian economy is wide income inequality. Despite significant growth, India faces considerable income inequality. A substantial portion of the population still lives in poverty, particularly in the rural areas. The disparity between the urban and rural population is stark, with urban areas experiencing higher standards of living compared to rural regions. The top income earners in India have amassed significant wealth, while a large segment of the population struggles to meet basic needs, leading to a gap in the distribution of wealth. Infrastructure and development. Infrastructure development, including road, ports, airports, and telecommunication, is critical to sustaining economic growth. India has been making significant strides in improving its infrastructure, though challenges such as traffic congestion, poor rural infrastructure, and inadequate sanitation remains. With the rapid expansion of digital connectivity, India has seen a significant growth in mobile internet penetration, boosting e-commerce, digital payments, and online education. This is also one of the important features of digital infrastructure. Government policies and economic planning. India has historically relied on economic planning. Though the role of the Planning Commission has been replaced by the Niti Aayog, in 2015 to promote sustainable development, innovation, and economic growth. The government plays a crucial role in regulating inflation, public debt, fiscal deficit through monetary policies and fiscal measures. The Reserve Bank of India (RBI) is responsible for monetary policies, controlling inflation and maintaining currency stability. Diverse culture and market. India's cultural diversity, comprising multiple languages, religions and traditions, affect consumer behavior and market dynamics. Businesses need to understand regional preferences and variations to succeed in Indian market. The Indian consumer market is one of the largest in the world, with increasing purchasing power among the middle class and young consumers. This has led to a boom in industries such as consumer goods, retail, and services. Underdeveloped rural economy. Rural urban divide. A significant portion of India's population still resides in rural areas where agriculture is the main occupation. However, rural areas are often underdeveloped, lacking basic services such as healthcare, education, and infrastructure. There is a growing trend of rural to urban migration, that is, people are coming from villages to cities. As people from rural areas seek better employment opportunities, education, and living conditions in cities. Financial system. India has a well established banking system with both public and private banks. The capital markets are regulated by Securities and Exchange Board of India (SEBI), and India's stock exchanges BSE and NSE play a vital role in the financial system. The government has implemented schemes to promote financial inclusion such as Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana to provide access to financial services for the unbanked population. Another feature of Indian economy are the challenges. So let's look at what are kind of challenges also feature in the Indian economy. Poverty. Despite significant progress, poverty remains a major challenge, with millions of people lacking access to basic necessities such as food, clean water, and healthcare. Corruption in both public and private sector continues to undermine governance and economic growth. India faces serious environmental issues such as air pollution, water scarcity, and climate change, which could negatively impact agriculture, health, and quality of life. So let's conclude. The Indian economy is marked by its diversity, rapid growth, and evolving nature. While it continues to face challenges like poverty, inequality, and infrastructure gaps, its young population, expanding middle class, and increasing global integration offer significant potential for future growth. The government's policies in liberalizing the economy, improving infrastructure, and addressing social issues will be crucial for ensuring sustained and inclusive economic development. Let's just recap all the 13 points. We can talk about challenges. In challenges, we have poverty, corruption, and environmental concerns. Financial system, banking and capital market regulated by SEBI and stock exchanges. And financial inclusion would be Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. Underdeveloped rural economy, because of which migration is happening from rural areas to urban areas, and there is also a big divide between the rural and urban infrastructure. Diverse culture and markets. So in Indian economy is one of the features of Indian economy is multiple languages, multiple religions, many religions and traditions. Government policies like Planning Commission and Niti Aayog are there. Fiscal and monetary policies controlled by or monitored by Reserve Bank of India. Infrastructure and development. There are a lot of roads, ports, airports, and telecommunication projects being developed in India. Digital infrastructure is very important. We see most of the citizens or most of the population using mobile internet banking for doing transactions, e-commerce transactions, and most of the digital payments and online education also we see. Wide income inequality. There is a lot of income disparity between poor people and rich people. The wealth is not distributed equally. High dependency on foreign trade. Although in IT sector, pharmaceutical, textiles, India exports is a major exporter, but it also imports crude oil, gold, and machinery from other countries. Rapid economic growth. India's one of the feature of India is that it has grown at a very rapid pace since 1991 when the economy was opened up, when economic reform was taken up. India has a very large workforce, a large population of 1.4 billion people. Although there is a lot of unemployment, underemployment, and informal employment, this has also affected the overall economy of India. India is a mixed economy made up of composed of public and private sectors. It has state-owned enterprises and private sectors. Government is in like public companies are in defense, energy, transportation, etc. And after liberalization, India has progressively moved towards market-oriented economy. Previously, for everything, license was required from the government to open up any kind of businesses. Diversified economy. It's a multi-sector economy composed of primary, secondary, and tertiary sectors. And earlier, the agricultural sector used to contribute around 40 to 50% of the population was employed in agricultural sector. That was the primary sector. And now IT contributes almost 40 to 50% to the GDP. IT in the service sectors include IT services, software exports, finance, telecommunication, and healthcare. Agriculture is the major contributor. It's a primary sector where 40 to 50% of the population is employed. There are a lot of challenges: soil degradation, land fragmentation, water scarcity, and so on, climate changes, soil degradation. Government is taking a lot of measures for agricultural reform. Next is define agricultural productivity. What are the causes for the growth of agricultural productivity? Okay. Agricultural productivity refers to the efficiency with which agricultural inputs such as land, labor, capital, and technology are used to produce output, crop, and other agricultural products. It is typically measured as the ratio of agricultural output in terms of crop yields or value to the amount of input used in the production process. For example, if a farmer has given an input of 100 rupees, okay, 100 rupees, and the output is 150 rupees, so that is a positive agricultural productivity. It is typically measured as the ratio of agricultural output to the amount of input used in the production process. Essentially, agricultural productivity indicates how effectively the agricultural sector uses resources to produce food, fiber, and other goods. So the formula for this is agricultural productivity is equal to agricultural output upon agricultural inputs. Higher agricultural productivity means that more output is produced with the same amount or fewer inputs, leading to increased efficiency and profitability for farmers and the economy as a whole. Now, what are the causes for the growth of agricultural productivity? Several factors have contributed to the growth of agricultural productivity. These can be classified into technological, economic, social, and policy related. Improved seeds and crop varieties. The introduction of a high yielding varieties HYUs of crops such as wheat and rice has significantly increased crop yields. These varieties are often more resistant to diseases and pests, and they are designed to grow faster and in more diverse conditions. But what is happening is, because of this, we are playing with the nature. The quality of food has decreased. Earlier, when we used to eat apple, banana, or fruits or vegetables, we used to get taste. Even even a ginger used to taste a lot better compared to what it is now. Now you put your ginger in the tea or in your food, you don't get the taste also. So that has gone down because of trying to control diseases and pests. Mechanization. The use of modern machinery, tractors, harvesters, and plows, has reduced the labor required for planting, cultivating, and harvesting crops. Mechanization speeds up the agricultural process, making it more efficient and less dependent on manual labor. Irrigation technology. The development of advanced irrigation systems such as drip irrigation and sprinkler systems ensures better water management, especially in areas prone to drought or inconsistent rainfall. This leads to higher yields per unit of land. Although this is a good technology, irrigation technology, that is drip system and sprinkler systems, but not all farmers are able to afford this because there is an upfront additional cost involved in implementing the irrigation technology, and you cannot even do away with it. It is a must. Next is fertilizers and pesticides. The use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides has increased agricultural output by improving soil fertility and controlling pests that damage crops. Balanced and controlled use of fertilizers increases crop yields and ensures food security. But this is harming what we are getting at in our homes. All this, all this food, rice, and they're all fully covered with pesticides and chemicals, which is very harmful. We are not getting anything organic. Biotechnology. Innovations in biotechnology, such as genetically modified GM crops, have led to higher resistance to diseases, pests, and environmental stress, therefore, thereby increasing productivity. Improved agricultural practices, better farming techniques. The adoption of modern agricultural practices such as crop rotation, intercropping, and soil conservation techniques leads to better utilization of resources and improved yields over time. Crop rotation is very important. That is one of the better farming techniques where you sow multiple types of crops and not just one. Use of precision farming. With advancements in information technology, farmers are adopting a precision agriculture which uses data from sensors, satellite images, and GPS systems to optimize input use and maximize crop yields. Conservation agriculture. Techniques that focus on maintaining soil structure and minimizing soil erosion, such as minimum tillage and cover cropping, contribute to sustainable increase in agricultural productivity. Better infrastructure, transportation and storage facilities. This is one of the important thing. Improved roads, transport networks, and storage facilities help reduce post-harvest losses. Improves market access, allows farmers to sell their produce at better prices in a higher yielding markets. where they can earn higher profits. Efficient supply chains and cold storage systems ensure that produce reaches the markets in good condition, enhancing productivity. Access to local, regional, and global markets allow farmers to sell their products at competitive prices, encouraging them to invest in higher productivity. Economic factors. The availability of credit, loans, and subsidies for purchasing modern farming equipment, inputs like seeds, fertilizers, and pesticides, and financing for infrastructure projects can promote agricultural productivity. Land reforms. Proper land reforms, including land consolidation and the equitable distribution of land, can lead to better utilization of available land and improve productivity by reducing fragmentation and enhancing economies of scale. Labor productivity. The shift from manual labor to mechanized labor increases the overall efficiency of the agricultural process, reducing the labor force's dependency on traditional methods and boosting productivity. Government policies is very important. Subsidies and support prices. Government subsidizes for inputs like fertilizers, seeds, and electricity can help lower the cost of production for farmers, encouraging higher investment in technology and better farming practices. Government and private organizations provide extension services to educate farmers on best practices, new technologies, and sustainable farming methods. This knowledge dissemination leads to better productivity. Public investment in agriculture. Government investments in infrastructure, irrigation systems, and rural development initiatives help create the conditions necessary for increasing agricultural output. Crop insurance. This is also important. Policies such as crop insurance protect farmers against risks like drought, floods, or price fluctuations, making it easier for them to adapt high productivity methods without the fear of heavy losses. Now, as I'm reading through, all these bold points can be noted down on a piece of paper for ease of remembrance. These are the keywords. Once you know the keywords, we can expand on them. We don't need to remember the exact wordings, but if you can even just remember keywords which are in the bold, like crop insurance, then we can expand on this very easily. Social factors. The level of education and awareness among farmers plays a crucial role in adapting new technologies and practices. Educated farmers are more likely to experiment with and benefit from innovations in agricultural techniques. In many agricultural societies, the empowerment of women, who often play key roles in farming, has led to better productivity. Increased access to education, resources, and decision making opportunities for women contributes to agricultural growth. Climate and weather conditions. This also plays a very crucial role in agricultural productivity. Agricultural productivity is highly dependent on favorable climate conditions. Research on climate resistant crop varieties and better weather forecasting helps farmers make informed decisions and adapt to changing weather patterns, reducing losses due to adverse weather. While climate change poses a challenge to agricultural productivity through droughts and erratic weather, some regions are adopting measures such as climate smart agriculture to adapt and mitigate its effect on crop yields. Globalization and trade. The growing global demand for agricultural products and better access to international markets encourages farmers to produce more efficiently, which boosts productivity. Export incentives and better trade relations with other countries can open up new markets for agricultural produce, promoting growth. Let's look at the summary now. technological innovations like better seeds, machinery, and irrigation system, improved farming practices, precision farming, crop rotation, better infrastructure, transportation and storage facilities, economic factors, investment, land reforms, access to markets, government policies, subsidies, support prices, extension services, social factors, education, women's empowerment, climate and weather adaptation, climate smart agriculture, globalization and trade, access to international markets. Now, what we need to do is we just need to remember the summary and then expand on each point like better seeds, machinery, irrigation system, and so on. We'll cover the factors responsible for the growth of population in India in the next video. Thank you very much for listening through. Best of luck for your exams. Take care. Bye bye.